Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin, and today I'm sharing my first TBR of 2022. It's January. It's time for a new year. Oh my gosh. It's so exciting. So, first off, I'm going to start with our podcast books that we will be reviewing in January, like always, even though we've already recorded all these episodes, so I'm not technically rereading them. I'm just going to let you know what we're doing on the podcast. First up, we have Steel King by Devney Perry. It's a motorcycle romance in a small town. They're actually former motorcycle. They've disbanded, and I really like it. It's a small town romance, and it's one of the few motorcycle romances that I actually like. Then we have 3 Weeks with Lady X by Eloisa James. This is kind of like a spinoff from one of her books in the Desperate Duchess series, the final book in that series. And it's just really interesting. I really like this one. Then There Are No Saints by Sophie Lark. I'm very, very, very excited for you guys to hear our discussion about this serial killer romance. It's just Sophie Lark's so cool and amazing, and I just love what she did with those characters. Then we have the Hating Game movie review. So we decided that we wanted to review the Hating Game as an adaptation. The Hating Game is still one of Juliet's favorite books, so we wanted a chance to discuss it because we haven't really discussed it a ton, and I'm just really excited because I need to rewatch it. I've only watched it one time so far, so I need to do that. Okay, so for book clubs, for our Patreon exclusive review, I did not have a theme for January. I just let everyone recommend whatever kind of book that they wanted. And the book that was chosen was Falling Like Stars by Eve Casey. And honestly, I had never seen this book before. And I was really excited that it actually won because I was like, oh, this is like something that's never been on my radar. I'd love to discover something very new. It's the first book in Eve Casey's All In series, and it says, Elle's fairy tale is simple: a job, a man, cottage by the sea. She just ticked the first thing off. A dreamy new job planning guest experiences for Orbit All, the world's first space tourism company. Cottage by the sea, more like an apartment in California's Mojave Desert, and the only man in her life is Chin, Orbital's annoying new astronaut who also happens to be her loud upstairs neighbor. So it sounds like this is like a very opposites attract, that our heroine is very free-spirited and our hero's a little bit buttoned up. He's kind of escaping his family confines, the expectations that they've had for him by taking this job. He's kind of doing something that his family don't want him to do. So that'll be very interesting. It's an interracial romance. And it also says that each book in the series is a standalone. So that's something that I like. The romance will actually be wrapped up in one book. For the Rake Appreciation Society, they're reviewing Ravishing the Heiress by Sherry Thomas. I haven't read any book by Sherry Thomas. I'm very excited for another new historical romance author. I am a little bit wary though because I know that Crystal, in anticipation of this one, read the first book in the series. It's the Fitzhugh trilogy, and she did not like it at all. So I'm kind of nervous, but I'm also very excited to try out something new. So it sounds like an arranged marriage. Millicent has a lot of money and they agree to an arranged marriage to save them from bankruptcy, and she gets to be the new countess. But it says because of her youth, they have agreed to wait 8 years before consummating the marriage and then and only then beget an heir, and then lead separate lives after she gives him an heir. But then she falls in love with her husband, and her husband is her best friend but nothing more. So I'm wondering if the 8 years have passed. And how young is Millie? Ooh, possible love triangle. Her husband also has childhood sweetheart who's been recently widowed. Oh my gosh, this sounds like there might be a lot of drama. I don't know. I'm very interested in this one. It sounds good. And then the Historical Hellions are reviewing Splendid by Julia Quinn. I want to get back on the Historical Hellions book club because I kind of got a little scared away. A lot of the old school romances were just really not driving with me, so I kind of took a break. But I really want to read Splendid by Julia Quinn. I really want the original cover for this one as well. I haven't been able to find it yet though. And it sounds like this is a romance between an American heiress and the Duke of Ashbourne, who has sworn he doesn't want to marry anytime soon. But she saves his young nephew's life, and she's everything that Alex never thought a woman could be: smart, funny, principled, and brave. But she's a servant, completely unsuitable for a highborn duke. Unless perhaps she's not quite what she seems. So apparently whenever she saves the nephew, she slipped out of her cousin's home dressed as a kitchen maid. She just wanted one last taste of anonymity before her debut. So he thinks that she's a servant, but she's an heiress. This is great. I love this. This sounds awesome. Okay, I'm very excited about Splendid. And then I only have one arc to read, and it's not even out in January, it's out in March. A Brush with Love by Maisie Eddings, which is a fellow bookstagrammer. She has signed a deal with St. Martin's for rom-coms. And I'm very excited because I know that Maisie is a real life dentist, and her book seems to be about that as well. So the heroine is an oral surgeon, or she's gonna be an oral surgeon, and the hero is a first-year dental student, and he has a family legacy. And it sounds like Harper is a buttoned-up sort of character. She has like a plan for her life. She doesn't want to deviate from any of that, and running into Dan kind of throws that all for a loop. She wants to just stay friends with him, but you know, sparks fly and stuff. So I'm very excited to see what kind of romance Maisie writes. I have two new releases on January 11th. The first one is Juniper Hill by Daphne Perry. This is the second book in her Eden's series, and the heroine, we meet the heroine at the end of Indigo Ridge, and I was very, very excited. We run into her because the heroine of Indigo Ridge was a cop, and she saw this woman on the side of the road, and she's basically like crying, having a mental breakdown, and a screaming baby in the back of her car, and she's looking for this house, and we find out that she's actually going to be renting an apartment for one of the Eden brothers, and he is the chef at the local inn, which is family owned, the Eloise Inn, which is heavily featured throughout the series. And so it's gonna be like forced proximity. I think she's gonna be the new like housemaid, housekeeper around the inn, and she has a newborn daughter with her. So it seems like she's like escaping some sort of past, and I just can't wait for this. I love single parent romances. I'm very, very curious about this pairing though, because we've seen Knox before. He's very rugged and very like hot and sexy. I remember he has tattoos. My kind of man, someone who can cook and looks like that. Reminds me of Killian from The Opposite of You. But I digress. I'm just very excited about it. Another new release, which I'm excited about, is The Siren of Sussex by Mimi Matthews. I've only read one book, and it was a novella by Mimi Matthews, and I'm kind of really curious to see what a full-length novel looks like by her. I might try to read another one of her books that she's already published before reading this one, because I believe she's been indie before, and this one's being published with Berkeley. Digress. This is going to be the first book in a new series called The Bells of London, and the heroine is Evelyn Maltravers. I don't know if I'm saying that right. She comes from a blue stocking family, and she wants to be basically like a famous equestrian, because that's how she's going to make a name for herself and also find a good match, good husband. This is how she's going to distinguish herself in society, since she doesn't have the bloodlines to be in, you know, rubbing shoulders with the upper echelon of society. And she actually turns to this dressmaker. He's a half Indian tailor named Ahmed. He's kind of made a name for himself actually making riding habits. So she goes to him to dress her, and they fall in love. So it's kind of like a forbidden romance because he is half Indian, and I think that Mimi Matthews could do something really interesting with this interracial romance. So I'm just very, very curious. I really love A Holiday by Gaslight. It gave me strong North and South vibes. And even though it is an illustrated cover, it's not as bad as some of them. I prefer bodice ripper looking covers. I'll let this one slide though, because it's not too like caricature, cartoony one, whatever. Of course, I'm ready to read Monroe. Okay, I've done a whole Immortals After Dark reread already, and McCreeve is still one of my favorites, partly because of Monroe. Honestly, he's, oh my God, the hot and hotter twins. And Monroe was such a great guy in McCreeve's book. He deserves an HEA. That epilogue at the end of McCreeve teasing his heartache before he even gets to woo his mate. I mean, talk about starting a relationship off on a tragedy. I feel bad for him. I feel so bad for him. So I'm very, very excited. I've kind of been avoiding the total synopsis and any other teasers that Cressley Cole's been throwing out. I wanted to just experience it and not know too much, because I think that the epilogue in McCreeve was perfect. That's all the information that I need to get me super excited about it. But oh, I'm reading that the day it comes out. Like, nothing's gonna stop me. And then of course, the Mulvaney murder brothers. I'm so excited about Headcase by Onley James. She's fast become one of my favorite authors. She writes great romances, and these heartwarming serial killers will just worm their way into your heart. Like, I don't know how they can't. It's just, they're so beautiful. And this is going to be one of the murder twins, Asa. He is going to go on a mission by himself, and this is out of his comfort zone because he's used to having his twin brother with him on every single mission. And then his hero is a crime like enthusiast, and he hopes to like land himself on this like big publication. And so I think that maybe he's going to catch Asa at something. I don't know. It's gonna be exciting. I love this. I love when they're kind of like working on opposing sides. That's part of the reason why I really love Psycho, because it was between a serial killer and a former FBI agent. So this is kind of similar vein, and I'm very, very, very excited. I have only 2 more books that I put on like my concrete list of books that I want to read in January, because I wanted to leave room for just random recommendations, other books that I maybe didn't get to in 2021 that have been on my TBRs before. I don't know. So I didn't want to put too many books on this first TBR. I wanted to give myself room to mood read, but I did want to read Sustained by Emma Chase. It's the 2nd book in her Legal Brief series, but they're all standalones. This was recommended to me when I did my video over the summer of give me a book recommendation. I'll let you know if I'm interested in it or if I'm not. And I was interested in the synopsis. The hero is a hard, calloused, intimidating defense attorney. He's literally the opposite of a Prince Charming. And then the heroine is Chelsea McQuaid, and she has 6 orphan nieces and nephews, and they complicate his life. I've heard really great things about this book, so I definitely wanted to put it on my January TBR. And then I really kind of want to read Skye O'Malley by Bertrice Smalls. So Crystal recently did a video on books from her birth year, and she said that this book, she was telling me this before her video came out too, how bonkers the book is. Like she gave me so many details that I was just like mind blown that somebody included all of this in one book. And it's not that I think that I'm going to love it, but also it's a book that needs to be experienced. I have to read this book. I have to read it. I have to experience this book. I'll link Crystal's video down in the description box below if you want to go watch it. It's very interesting, her commentary on it. So that's all the books that I officially have on my January TBR. Hopefully I'll be able to read a lot more than that, but we know I'm a mood reader, so it's probably best that I don't put too much pressure on the first month in January. Let me know what you guys are reading for the month. Let me know if I've missed any new releases. I probably have. It's always after the fact that I put out my TBR video that I then remember, I'm like, oh, there is a new release that I was excited for, and I completely forgot to mention it. So I'm sorry if I missed it. And you're like, I can't believe you forgot about this book. It happens. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe to get notified of any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, life's better with a little HEA. Bye guys.